What's everybody? What
is everybody?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Strength Solutions Podcast. We're on Apple and Spotify. You can rate and review us. Our YouTube channel, you can leave a comment down below, like, share. We also have a website, strengthsolutionspodcast.com, free blogs, free guides, and programs for purchase. Email strengthsolutionspodcast@gmail.com. Social media, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, Strength Solutions Podcast. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
So, Nathaniel, I heard you want an A+ body.
Oh, yeah. A+ only, dude. A++ maybe.
Oh, yeah. But your sleep is a D.
Yeah, there you
Your
go.
food is a B. Your working out is A.
Hey, there you go. Yeah.
But everything else is B or lower.
I'm failing. Yeah.
So this guy had a Instagram post and talked about how everybody wants an A+ body, but their other parts of their life is very subpar.
They're failing in the other subjects, right?
Very bad.
And so some of the subjects that were there were sleep, what else? Nutrition, stress management, all these other things. And so I thought it was a really good concept and idea because it works really well when people can kind of understand, right, what they're really looking for and also how to know if they're doing well or not. Some of these things are kind of difficult to grade, I guess, so to speak, right? And so I think putting it in this sort of context really helps. So I think if you're, listening, take a look at sort of your subjects, right? And all those things. And what would you grade yourself in? I think it's also a good idea to ask someone else, right? Like maybe like your wife, your husband, your partner, whatever it is, and see like, hey, if I were to tell you, grade me on these subjects here, like what would you give me? Because I think sometimes that subjective view or objective view is really helpful.
Yeah. I think a big part is people want to be A+ in everything, but they don't set up habits to be A+. So let's take sleep, for example. They'll wake up, put some sunglasses on, go driving, not get any sun in the eye. You're already putting your grade down because you're not getting any red light in your eyes to wake you up. Then you come home, you get on your phone, you don't turn off the lights. Now you already went from an A to a B, and then now you're at a C because your brain's so excited before bed. And then you're like, oh, I'm at a C. Right?
So the subjects here are sleep, nutrition, training, hydration, stress management, and supplements, which is a funny one to put towards the end there. But yeah, it's like, and then same thing with nutrition. If you have a class, right, which I'm sure most of us went to school or went to college or whatever it is, like you said, you have a plan, right? You study for that class, you do the homework for that class, you kind of understand it. And I think a lot of the times we don't do that, especially with nutrition here. I think, I'll talk to a lot of my clients and I'll say, hey, what do you do on a normal basis? What does your nutrition look like? Tell me what you ate yesterday. And a lot of them will say, oh, well, I didn't have time to make breakfast in the morning, so I just sort of skipped it. And then when lunch came around, I just went with my friends to go, eat at this place or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, you sort of went into the day with no plan at all on what to do your nutrition like. And then you're wondering, oh, it's so hard. I can never really get this together. It's like,
so you're saying you have to study for the exam.
Exactly. Right. And the exam, unfortunately, for a lot of these things happens every single day, right? Every day you have to make these decisions. And especially with nutrition, you've got to make the right decision multiple times a day. Right. And that it does get frustrating and it is hard and things like that. But if you want to have that A+ in the subject, you got to do the work.
It's crazy. One of my favorite ones on there that nobody talks about is hydration, your hydration status.
Yeah.
And literally I had a conversation today with somebody in a meeting and they're talking about, I have a headache. And I was like, well, how much water did you have today? Oh, I haven't had any. Well, no, duh, you have a headache. You need some hydration.
Yeah.
And it affects your performance. It affects how you sleep. And we read that study not long ago, or not study, article about lawyers or judges making worse decisions because their insulin response.
When they're hungry.
So you're going to make a worse decision when you're dehydrated as well.
Yeah, very true. I noticed definitely when my training suffers hardcore when I'm dehydrated, even more so than not getting enough sleep or maybe not eating enough or something like that. Being dehydrated and trying to work out fucking sucks. Everything is like 2 times harder. I'm wondering why these weights aren't moving when just the day before it was fine. And it's pretty crazy how much of a play hydration really does. I don't have it on screen right now, but Edwin can see my big old hydro jug over there. I'm really trying to make a better effort to get more water in and things like that, because I used to be super good about it. And, my plan fell off. I stopped studying, I stopped studying, and now I'm trying to get back to it.
You got to hit the books hard.
Yeah, I got to hit the books, man.
Right. So this past weekend, I officially have a teenage daughter.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you. So like 13.
13.
Damn, dude. Right? Holy shit. How do you feel?
Wild. Old.
Does it?
No, just kidding.
It's funny. I was just talking to a client, and I was watching a movie the other day, and I don't know what. Oh, I had asked him, I was telling him that my daughter's birthday was coming up soon. And he was like, man, just wait till, she's 15 or whatever. And I was like, oh, I'll wait. So I think I can wait for that. And he was like, wait till they're 23, because that's how old his youngest daughter is right now. And I was like, how do you feel, man? Do you look at them differently now, or do you look at them still like as the kids they were? And he was like, it's really hard because his son is getting married pretty soon. And he was like, it's difficult because I'm a little sad about it. And I was like, yeah, I think that's okay. Like you're allowed to be sad, it's a feeling and, and it's understandable and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, and he was kind of recounting stories about when he was younger and, like wrestling with his kid or like doing stuff. And he was like, that stuff's not going to happen anymore. And I was like, yeah, I think that's an understandable thing. So how do you feel? Do you look at them differently? Do you think you always kind of see them as the little kid they were?
A little bit, but I also think that the way I think is like they're part of growing.
Yeah.
And I think I get more enjoyment out of growth.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it has to do with teaching and being a teacher at heart. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like seeing how simple she wanted for her birthday. She didn't want really like a big party. She just wanted to go to Whataburger, and then she just wanted to go shop a little bit. And that's all she wanted, to watch a movie. Aww. And I'm glad I have a person who doesn't take a lot to be happy.
Yeah.
And seeing her think for herself. Mm-hmm. I like all the growth moment stuff. Yeah. I think that's what I like the most. And so I do see her as a teenager now, and I'm enjoying the craziness of a teenager, right? Like getting upset and the hormones hitting, or just like crying for no reason. The fight back. I'm enjoying each of those moments because I understand these moments. And I think it's cool to look at the past and like, I remember little things about her when she was little and stuff like that, but I enjoy growth. So as they grow, I'm going to enjoy more and more parts as they get married, and then they have their own kids, and I can help facilitate like learning. I think I enjoy that piece more.
I'll never forget when my daughter was really young. One of the things I used to always say is that I can't wait till I could talk to her, till I could like have a conversation with her, and just, know what she thinks and stuff like that. And now I get to do that. And I really enjoy the moments where she does kind of like talk to me about how she's feeling. Like she just did that this past weekend. I think it was on Sunday or something. I walked into her room and she was looking like real sad. And I was like, yo, what the hell's going on? And so she kind of talked to me about some things that were happening at school and stuff like that, et cetera. And I was like, man, I'm really happy that I can have these conversations with her. And I'm glad that she feels comfortable enough to talk to me about them, and yeah, I think saying, I want to have a conversation with her, I want to know what she thinks. Reality though, is that I want to see her grow. I want to see her get older. I want to hear the experiences she has. And like you said, sort of be there and guide and coach and things like that. I had a conversation with Camille recently too, where she was sort of putting in perspective, like, parenting in a sense. And I was like, I really liked her perspective of it, because she was like, your whole job is to teach them, like to guide them through life and everything like that. And if you lose hold of that, right? Like if you kind of just let them do whatever they want, or you're not like strict enough or whatever, then you lose that, your whole like purpose, of like teaching them and coaching them and guiding them and stuff. And I was like, wow, that's a really interesting way of putting it. And because I look at myself the same way like you do, like as a coach, like that's what we do for people for a lot of our career and also for our life and stuff. And so I think that kind of resonated with me, where I was like, oh, okay, I think I should think about things a little bit differently as my role here, as a teacher, to someone who's totally new to life. But Congratulations, man. I'm happy for you, dude. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, bro.
Of emotions for the next
Good
5
luck.
years.
Probably longer.
We'll see. Recently, I've come across people who are obsessed with measuring everything. And so they've like literally come to me like, I got to know how much body percent fat I'm losing or else like this isn't worth it. Right. So we get so fixated on numbers and the way we treat the fitness industry, but maybe it's time to step away from the scale or step away from a body percent fat caliper or in body skin
or whatever it is. Yeah.
And how can you tell if you're losing weight and losing fat in particularly versus losing muscle?
Yeah. Okay.
And so there's a couple indicators. One is, how is your clothes fitting? Is it tighter at the shoulders and arms, starting to get looser around the waist? Or maybe you measure your body weight once a week and your weight's going down the scale and you're getting stronger. That's another way to indicate it. And the last way is, what's your energy level like when you're losing weight?
Oh, that's a really good one.
I don't think enough people talk about their energy level when they lose weight. You should feel better a lot of times.
Yeah.
If you're losing a lot of fat versus muscle.
I was having a conversation with a client Monday, and he is someone who is very, I don't want to say he's like vainly motivated, but it is a big part of his perspective, right? He really wants to look a certain way, build muscle a certain way, et cetera, things like that. And he was telling me the other day, he was like, man, I'm really trying to stay away from looking at mirrors, weighing myself. I'm really trying to focus on, you know, like you said, how do I feel? Am I getting stronger? Do I have more energy? Can I move better? Things like that. And I was like, wow, dude, that's a really big step for you, because I know you, you know, and that's really difficult for you to try and do. But I agree. And at the place that I'm at now, we have an in-body machine. We do use it, you know, sporadically here and there. And I know sometimes they want us to use it a bit more, because, you know, it's like a feature and something that the people are paying for and stuff like that. And I'll ask clients like, hey, do you want to scan today? Do you want to do whatever? And it's funny because I feel good about it in a way, because I feel like I've taught them really well, because a lot of them will be like, no. You know? Really? Yeah. Or they'll be like, maybe next month, or like, it's almost an afterthought, you know? And I'm like, oh, awesome. Like, I feel good about that, you know, where they're not.
They care more about the process and the journey than they do like this destination.
Right. Where they're not like, we got to scan every week. And I think sometimes that's a good tool to use. But I don't know. Honestly, I feel like for the most part, it almost is a hindrance, because if you don't see the results in the way that you expect them to happen, even if there are results there, but they're like maybe smaller than you expected or something like that, it's for whatever reason, always discouraging. And it never really gets the I don't know, the feeling you want, you know? I think that's what people are chasing, that feeling. And it's really hard to get whatever you've sort of romanticized it as being.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, it just doesn't work, because it adds extra stress in a society that we are micro-stressed all day, whether it's looking at our phone or there's some deadline you need to hit. There's stresses all day, and then you're just adding and compounding another stress, which is not advantageous to losing weight.
Or anything, really.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I think most people need to fall in love with just moving and exercising. And if you do that, the other things come. It's when you chase health, aesthetics will come. But if you chase aesthetics, health may not come.
Yeah, very true.
And those are two different concepts. And I don't think people understand those things.
Very different concepts. Yeah.
I also want to talk about that. People have been asking me about, like, should I wear squat shoes? Should I have wrist wraps? And I know you sent a video recently, right, about the squat shoe one. So in the video, I know Dr. Mike was there, but I don't think it was actually his video. It was RP Strength.
RP Strength. Okay, so then I guess it was his video. And I'm sure everybody who watches some sort of social media knows who Lean Beef Patty is, so she was there as well. And she was kind of posing a question and asking if everybody should be using squat shoes, because I guess maybe that's a concept that's been going around. And, honestly, I haven't seen the exact argument of squat shoes, but I have seen like the mobility argument kind of going around a little bit more recently. So I guess this kind of like sits in it. And the guy she was talking to, I believe, was a proponent of it. I think he was saying that everybody should wear squat shoes. And he was saying, how some people will argue like, well, then I'm not really working on my mobility. And isn't that the end game anyway? So shouldn't I just work on that instead of sort of taking a quote unquote shortcut wearing squat shoes? And he kind of argued too, like where he was saying, well, aren't you working on your mobility anyway, because it allows you to get more dorsiflexion and puts more strain on the calf and et cetera and stuff like that. And so, it's a good question because people will ask that. Even I've considered like, hey man, maybe I should wear squat shoes. Maybe it'll help, And I think in the same vein as like wearing belts or wraps or straps, I think you have to get to a certain point before you can use those things. They're definitely not something, regardless of where this conversation goes, I don't think any of those things should be used at the beginning.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you should work on your hands. You should work on all that stuff. I just think there's too much in society. There's only one way to do this. I don't know why we do this as humans. There's multiple ways to do stuff. And if you want to use squat shoes, use squat shoes. The pro is it's a little easier to squat down. It may help get more weight on your squat, which in turn, because you are getting more knee flexion at the very top of it or at the bottom, you will be able to get more mobility because you're able to overload a little bit more. The negative is maybe you're using the squat shoes as a crutch. And in that case, you may not be able to get more ankle mobility. But also, what is more important to you? Is it more important to you to lift heavier and have those wraps or shoes or whatever it is because your goal is to isolate a certain area or do this or that? Or is it more important to you to work your whole body as a full and work on the weak chain as you're working the main movement? A perfect example is there was a recent video and this guy was a bodybuilder and he was talking about putting a like Smith machine bar in front of your knees, right? Because there's when you do RDL, there's still traction on the knees and pressure on the knees. This helps like stabilize it. It's like right above the knees. So that way, when you go to do the hamstring, get the stretch, you don't have to worry about pulling the knees. And someone below to comment literally like, what does this guy know? He doesn't know anything. Like it's not going to help.
Where's the six pack?
Right. But at the end of the day, if you want to isolate and make the hamstrings weaker, the weakest component, and you want to really isolate it, this will help support the knee so that way you can work just on the hamstring stretch. And I think too many times we think about what's the right way to do a movement. So I'll give you another perfect example. There's different way to do hamstring curls. So is doing a GHD hamstring curl or stability ball hamstring curl better than doing a lying leg curl or a seated leg curl in a machine? They're just different.
Yeah.
The hamstring has to react differently. Do a push-up versus a bench press. They just react different. Your central nervous system has to respond differently. And I think it's time that we stop getting these stupid arguments on social media and start coaching people on like, what do you want? What is your goal?
Yeah.
That's the things that we need to think about.
You made fantastic arguments. I think all of those are really good points. And I think that's the best way to kind of put this conversation into perspective. I especially like the idea of what's your goal? Is your goal moving big, heavy weight, or is your goal, excellent mobility and be able to move things without the need for an aid? Right. And it just sort of depends. Maybe you do use squat shoes, but you still work on your mobility anyway. Right. So you can still move that big weight when you're training, but then you're still trying to work on just movement quality in general, right?
Or maybe you do squat shoes for 3 months and then you take them off for 3 months and change your program and how you want to do it.
There you go. Yeah, maybe you use it during your heavy phase and then you take them off and you do your normal hypertrophy or endurance stuff without them, So really good, man. I think that was a good way to approach that argument. Yeah.
Before we go into studies, I do want to talk about this.
Okay.
We're in the middle of a medical revolution, and this is going to lead the new innovation. So you sent me this. This is the first non-opioid painkiller.
Oh, yeah.
That the FDA has approved.
In like 20 years or something like that, which made me question. I was like, what was the one before that? I don't even know what it was.
It's probably opioid, whatever it was.
No, it was the first non-opioid painkiller approved in 20 years. So what I'm assuming is that 20 years ago, there was another non-opioid painkiller, which, I don't know what it was. But that's really cool, especially with the fact that there's been a known like crisis going on with it, with like things like fentanyl and stuff like that. And we saw that whole presentation. I think about that presentation a lot.
I do too.
It's funny. Yeah, I was wondering if you did, because like days will just go by where I'm like, damn, dude, like it stuck with me in a weird way. It was probably one of the better presentations.
It was dramatic.
It was, yeah, and like for a really good reason. It really opened my eyes to like the crisis of it. So. And it's cool, man, because this isn't the first sort of like revolutionary thing we've seen, right? Coming along in terms of medicine and stuff like that. There have been
stem cells.
peptides, dude. Peptides, man. That is like a whole crazy world that's barely been broken. Stem cells, non-opioid painkillers.
Plasma transfusion.
Transfusions.
ERP, I think it's called.
We've seen like crazier shit with like the Bluetooth thing, with the like spinal cord feces.
Yeah.
You're right. I forgot about that. Or weren't they talking about like
microbiome transfer
period stuff, like with the
period
menstrual
blood?
Yeah, dude. I don't know. It's really crazy stuff.
What I like about the medical stuff is taking things your body already does
Yes.
now and reuse it.
That seems to be like the direction, right? If I had to put anything into like a summarization, is that we're using all of these things are things that we already produce. I don't really know about this opioid thing, but like the stem cells, peptides, menstrual blood, feces, like all these things are just like, it makes me feel like we're going the right direction, is what it feels like at the very least.
Yeah. So on the first study, it's fatty muscles raise the risk of serious heart disease, regardless of overall body weight.
Fatty muscle.
People with pockets of fat hidden inside their muscles are at higher risk of dying or being hospitalized from heart attack or heart failure, regardless of their body mass index, according to new research. This intramuscular fat is highly praised in beefsteaks for cooking. However, little known about this type of body fat in humans, it impacts their overall health. This is the first study comprehensively to investigate effects of fatty muscles on heart disease. The finding adds evidence that existing measures such as body mass index or waist circumference are not adequate and evaluate the risk of heart disease accurately for all.
Oh, thank God. Give a round of applause for that one. Fucking hell.
So, it's pretty much, if you look at a ribeye steak versus a filet mignon,
there's a marbling,
right? There's a marbling, right?
Yeah.
So the more you have that fat in between, it's unhealthy, right?
Well, okay.
And so it doesn't. So it's showing that even guys that are skinny, quote unquote, or fit, if they have more marbling in their muscle, they're more likely to have heart disease. So it made me think about someone recently, what happened at the gym. Very fit looking, and this happened months ago.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember the story. They have an issue. They had a heart attack. They're late 40s, and they look healthy from the outside.
Yeah.
But now I wonder if they scanned his muscle. Does he have a lot of fat in between his muscle?
I wonder if, man. And you know what's funny too is that I'm wondering. So I just recently saw a video online, and this guy was making like, I don't know, a homemade lubricant or something like that, like a lotion type thing. And it was funny because he was talking about it, and he was like, the good part about this is that it has a high fat content, which we've sort of known in terms of like skin and things like that is good, right? You want sort of that layer there. It helps hydrate, things like that. He said this thing in it that I was like, and he was like, the good thing is that you can even use it, which again, this is probably just like something stupid, but he was like, you can use it for like your, what do you say? I guess like for pain or something. And he was like, the good thing is that it puts the fat into the muscle, and that's what you want. You want fat in the muscle. And I was like, and it's funny because you just talked about how that's like a bad thing. And so I'm worried because I'm like, man, if that starts getting real popular, is this?
But is it really putting in the muscle if it's on your body?
It's fucking dumb. It probably isn't doing that anyway. But yeah,
bad marketing.
You're just fucking rubbing shit on your body. But it does make me wonder. Yeah, because I've even had clients who have had heart issues like that too. Who generally, if you saw them on the outside, they cycle all the time and they do this and they do that and they're healthy and blah, blah. And then one day they just have a heart attack.
Okay.
You know?
So they haven't done a study on this, but what do you think causes someone who's fit to gain fat in between muscle?
That's interesting. I wonder if, because, you know, you also have to kind of go back well, this is a complicated conversation. And it's like, I wonder if these people had an extreme weight loss, right? And we've talked about things like fat memory and stuff like that. Like maybe their body just stores fat in the muscle as opposed to other places. Like maybe it's
like a genetic component.
Like a genetic component. Yeah. You know, because generally, you know, you'd see people like that and you'd think they'd be fine. And then, you know, there's people who fucking drink and smoke every day and they're 105, you know, and it's like,
I also wonder if it has to do with the stress component. Like
I would imagine
if you're highly fit, you're creating more stress. And so like it knows anytime you have extra calories, it needs to go to the muscles.
Fat. Yeah,
and so it starts plotting fat in between because you have excess calories, but they know around the muscles where you're going to need it.
Who knows, man?
Just a thought.
I don't know. Yeah. I wonder if there's any research on that.
I don't think yet. I think this is like the first research where they really broke down muscle.
I will say this is the first time that I've seen something like this. Yeah.
Maybe we need to start scanning muscles at the doctor's office.
Oh, wow.
That'd be cool, right?
If only. Yeah.
I mean, first we got to get rid of BMI. But,
hopefully this is maybe some step toward it.
The second study was about vaccinations and neurodevelopment disorders, a study of 9-year-old children enrolled in medical fields, right? So in this study, I don't know if I think I sent it to you. In this study, I'll break it down very simple. It was about 46,000 children.
Okay.
And they noticed people who had vaccinations tend to have divergent disorders, right?
Okay.
So autism, whether it's ADHD and all that stuff. So what I really wanted to bring up this study is there's a place in California where they're seeing autism actually go down. Oh. And it happens to be a wealthy area where people are not vaccinating their kids as much. Not saying there's any correlation, not saying vaccinations are good or bad. It just shows you, if you look at what we as kids had as vaccinations versus our kids. Have you ever seen like the picture of it?
What do you mean?
Like how many vaccinations they have today?
No. Is it a lot?
Yeah, it's like 80.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Like look it up.
Okay.
If everybody looks it up right now, you'll see the amount of vaccinations we had when we were children. Let's just put 1985, like when I was born.
Okay.
Right. And see how many vaccinations I have had. I probably had maybe 10 to 12, right? There's probably like an image or something like that. But today they have like over 80 to 100.
Damn.
At a young age. It's like we talked about red dye 3 it was.
Right.
And red dye, it literally, it's not going to make you lose weight, but it could change your behavior. A lot of people don't realize anytime you input metal or anything, and at that young of age, you probably don't need as much.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying don't vaccinate your kids. You could do, I'm all pro whatever you want to do. You want to vaccinate them, vaccinate them. If you don't, don't. But this is just a study that was pretty interesting. Are you able to find anything on?
I can't find an exact like photo. There's like versus graphs and stuff like that. Now it's just, the crazy thing is that a lot of these vaccinations happen so early. Right. Like it's as soon as you're born.
Yeah.
They're already giving you a vaccination, you know? And of course,
how do humans live without vaccinations before? Right.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they did die when they were like 25. So
no, I'm talking about like at the beginning when they were born. Now,
true. Yeah.
This is where I think the Western medicine has messed up. I think maybe like early on, like measles, mumps, and rubella. I'm gonna tell you what I actually think. Like those are like legit, right? Because they studied for years. They actually got rid of something.
Right.
And they eradicated
it.
But then they went too far with the chickenpox one. No one was dying from chickenpox.
True.
Right. Now it's your choice to take the vaccine again, or when they forced the COVID vaccine on people. Like, that thing wasn't even tested. Right?
Yeah.
We're still learning ramifications that people think has happened.
Yeah. They're still coming out with stuff about that. Yeah.
All right. We're going to go to the fitness questions. The first fitness question is, why is it hard to even just lose a pound of body fat?
Because you're eating out.
You know what it is? I think it takes a lot more consistency than people think.
Yeah. And I think that it also is so easily ruined.
By one meal.
Literally.
One day.
Okay, so here's an example. Here's a quick example. So the other day, I had some coupons. They're for Bahama Bucks. You ever been there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I told my daughter, I was like, hey, if you do this, that, I'll take you to Bahama Bucks at the end of the day. So she was like, cool. Sure enough, she finished by the time that I had set. So I was like, all right, let's go. So we go there and I'm looking at the fucking menu, dude. Like a normal, like medium-sized smoothie thing that they had there was like 800 to 1700 calories. Damn. And I was like, that's some people's like max caloric amount per day, 1700. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like a normal non-active person.
That's wild.
Yeah. And I was like, some people have this, you know, every other day they go out for dinner and I'll have a milkshake or, you know, whatever it is. And it's like, dude, it's so easy to mess up. How many calories is it to like burn a pound of fat? Is it like 3,000?
They say 3,500.
3,500, right?
That's just a generic number. There's a lot of factors that go into it.
So let's say that's 500 calories a day for a week, right? Dude, that one smoothie was 1,700 calories. That's more like, that's pretty much half.
If you had
right?
2 smoothies,
if you had 2
Saturday,
smoothies,
Sunday,
yeah,
you ruin your whole week.
Or even that, if you have a smoothie and a burger, you're fucked. Your whole pound of fat is gone. And all the work that you put in for the entire week is gone. And so I think that, yeah, I think that I see it's so hard because we underestimate the amount of calories we eat in a single meal, you know, going out to eat or something like that. Like it's hard. Yeah. It is, you know?
Yeah, it's hard. Question number 2, how do you get your partner to want to exercise? Mine doesn't.
You got any advice for me?
You got any advice for me? Look, the only thing you can do, whether it's family, partner, whoever it is be the example.
Yeah.
Because they think of you at a different level, right? They don't think of you at the same level as like, honestly, it'd be better for me to have Amanda train with Nathaniel than train with me.
And it's so funny because Camille said the same thing. She was like, what if I just train with Edwin? And I was like, go, please. And it's funny. Yeah. Cause it's really hard. And I've told people this, like I have couples who will train or, you know, they'll say like, oh, I'm always trying to get my husband or my wife to work out, but they never want to. And I was like, they're never going to work out with you, dude. They're just never going to do it. Like you're better off trying to convince them to go with a friend or a family member or by themselves or encourage them to just go do something fun or whatever. But the more that you push them for whatever reason, I've just realized over time, the more they don't want to do it.
And all you can do is give subtle hints or or when they ask, you answer their question.
Say, hey, you look a little heavier than last
I wouldn't say that. That's trouble.
Yeah.
In the bedroom there.
If you want to sleep on the couch, that's what you do. Yeah.
Sleep on the bed and have fun.
You tell them, hey, relax. That always works.
Or if they do train with you, then they're asking you questions and it's taken away from you. You might get upset as well.
Yeah. So that's like one of the things that I've run into where I'm just like, we just can't work out the same, right? We just can't. Your goals are different than my goals. And that's what I find also troublesome, like when training couples too, where I'm like, oh my God, I'd rather train 2 people of the same, you know, sex or gender or whatever than a couple themselves, because I'm like, in general, the guy's goal is always like, I want to get ripped and jacked. And the girl's goal is always like, I want to lose weight and whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, generally in terms of training, I could train you exactly the same, but your at home life is going to be completely the opposite. And it's difficult, you know, to train that way. So yeah, I don't know. I think like you said, be the example, encourage them to maybe do it with a friend instead, or participate with them in something active that they want to do. Yep. Right. You got to compromise somewhere. If you just want them to be active and do something, okay, if they want to take that dance class or if they want to go hike or whatever, then go do that with them. Because I think that you, to kind of piggyback off of what you said, doing that together, I think will kind of open the door to more avenues later on. Yeah. Right. To be that example.
And our last question number 3, I have lifted for years and I am not seeing any more results. Do you all have any suggestions? So it's someone who's lifted for years.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get stuck in a modality. That's one of the things I think you should check is, let's say you've lifted like a power lifter and you're stuck. Go off the modality for a little bit. It's going to be hard for you as a habit.
Yeah, mentally.
But maybe you need to work on power, or maybe you need to work on just isometrically just isometric work or isoing when you're bicep or tricep, doing like a bodybuilder style training program. It really, that could be one of the components.
It's also hard because maybe the results are just coming a lot slower than they used to. Like, maybe beforehand you could throw 5-10 pounds on every couple weeks on a lift, and now you're scraping the ground for half a pound or 1 pound here or whatever it is. Or maybe you're constantly getting injured, and like you said, maybe you need to go back and try something else for a second. But definitely keep pushing. I think my suggestion would pretty much be the same thing: is check your modality. Are you lifting the same reps and weights and sets that you've done for the past 3 years?
Maybe you need to up your sleep. Maybe you need to up your nutrition.
Maybe you got to look at your other subjects.
Your other subjects, huh? Whoa.
Tying it back.
Tying it back to the front. Yeah.
There you go, guys.
All right, guys. If you like what we're doing, you can share on Apple and Spotify. You can rate and review us. Check us out on YouTube. Leave a comment down below. Subscribe. Then our website is strengthsolutionspodcast.com. We have free blogs, free guides, and programs for purchase. Our email is strengthsolutionspodcast@gmail.com. Social media, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Strength Solutions Podcast. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Until next time, guys. What? Peace out.